and to shoot a final round 62. Ties the course record. To come from behind. And he battles back and goes birdie, 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 birdie with the fist pump. We need more emotion from the best player in the game. Well, you got it, and then some. He was crying on the podium. That, my friends, was the best Olympic performance, bar none, for me.
If you can wager on it, we're talking about it right here on The Gambler.
My station, baby! Jake from State Farm. I just beat my running PR, so I'm celebrating.
Keep celebrating when you bundle and save with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Popeye's Big Box is back. Come in today, and for just $6.99, you can have 2 pieces of our juicy signature chicken or 3 crunchy chicken tenders with your choice of 2 regular sides and a biscuit. But sometimes you have more mouths to feed, so we've added an even bigger box. With Popeye's $20 bigger box, you get 10 pieces of chicken or 10 chicken tenders with 4 biscuits and can feed your whole crew. It's the chicken you crave at a price you'll love for you or your whole family. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Price may vary. Terms apply.
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
I'm 6ABC Action News meteorologist Brittany Boyer with your latest forecast. What a pattern change we're enjoying today. Temperatures holding steady in the upper 70s. Unfortunately, we have not lost the high humidity levels. We have lots of clouds out there with scattered showers and thunderstorms as we get you through the rest of this afternoon. Heading into tonight, there will be some steady downpours at times. Watch for ponding on roads. Temperatures overnight tonight in the upper 60s.
This report is sponsored by Bank of America. Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America, N.A. Copyright 2024.
Hey, DQ fans, the $7 bacon cheeseburger meal deal will leave you and your wallet full. Grab a bacon cheeseburger and order of regular fries, a drink, and a sundae for a whole lot of happy. Only at participating DQ locations. Happy tastes good.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Your home for Villanova basketball is WDAS and WD273D. Fox Sports Radio Philadelphia.
Spring flies, speedboat glides, and people forget they're hiding. The girls smile, but people forget.
Oh, yes, indeed. And a good afternoon, everybody. It is the Daily Ticket. Sean Brace riding solo for now. Fox Sports Ready Gambler streaming to you live on YouTube, iHeartRadio, all that and more. Let's go. Folks, on this show, on this station, we like to keep it to what takes place on the field, the more important issues when it comes to placing a wager, numbers, stats, odds, injury reports, you name it, the stuff that is essential to getting on the right side of the play, right? Like that's normally what we do. There are times that pop up where we stick our foot into the mud and debate the topics that generally are discussed on, I guess, the other radio stations here in town, right? Today happens to be, unfortunately, one of those days. Now, I love Tim McManus. Tim McManus is my guy. I've known Tim for a long damn time. Worked with Tim. Hell, I produced for Tim McManus. Who was on that show? T-Mac. Good grief, my brain is just shot. T-Mac and I forget. I produced for Tim McManus. Tim McManus yelled at me one time because I ended up having to leave as an intern. I was interning before Tim McManus. That's right. That's how long we go back. I actually saw him at the Kenny Chesney concert. Love T-Mac. Very thorough and credible, and a guy that I would go to understand a situation revolving around the Philadelphia Eagles or anything NFL. Again, he is connected and damn good at what he does. With that being said, the 2023 Eagles really on August the 7th. Oh, we really got to go back there. We got a baseball team that just took the season series against the Dodgers, which is so important, right? Comes down to it. Could be the overall 1 seed. We got an injury in the NFL that should just shake you to the core, especially for you fantasy folks out there. If you haven't checked that out, good grief. Again, it's a preseason injury. We'll talk a little bit about that a little later. Jerrold Embiid is dinged up, for crying out loud. JoJo. Not our worst nightmares because it doesn't seem like it's all that bad, but it's not what you want to read with USA basketball. But today we got to open up with the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles that didn't win a damn thing. And I don't want to do that. But unfortunately, it is the topic of the day, the topic du jour. Look, it's ESPN, and with all love and respect, they know how timing works. And this is your quintessential ESPN preseason report. It's not as salacious as those Seth Wickersham, whatever the hell his name is up there in New England, those pieces. Jalen Hurts isn't commanding to get Marcus Mariota out of town in 2023 like Brady was doing with Jimmy Garoppolo. Nothing along those lines. But it is something to note because I think a lot of us, and this is my big takeaway from the ESPN article more than anything, dude, we are a smart fan base. There's a lot of people that were saying that, including myself and Jansen and Jerrold, who's going to be on the show a little bit later. Like Roy, you go down the list, Mark Henry Jr., our Slack chat, our group chat. We were talking about all of this. And as it goes and new rumors pop up with the Belichick stuff, yeah, you bet your ass Sirianni was on the chopping block. They fired both his coordinators. Bill Belichick is available. Yeah, you have to ask that question. Do you think after seeing what Doug Peterson went through, bringing a Super Bowl championship to this city, the first time in franchise history, and they get rid of him? Like, that they're committed to any player? Carson Wentz, the contract, the hit that they took, see ya? They don't play games down there at the NovaCare complex. That's how they operate. There's no love. They don't mess around. They will get rid of you in a heartbeat if they think it's best for the organization. And it's something that I kind of give them credit for. Now, is it always the right move? No. But at the same time, it's been a successful organization over the last, since Jeffrey Lurie's taken over, right? Late 90s? This has been a hell of a team. I'll take the Eagles versus anybody, versus a lot of teams out there. Let's put it that way. Not anybody, but let me back it up. Patriots, of course, with the number one run. You got the Chiefs right now, but we don't need to go down that. Ultimately, the problem that I have is that, and again, I understand it, ESPN Media, Tim, teamed up with Jeremy Fowler. Those guys are damn good at what they do. I have no issues with them putting it out there. But what irks me a little bit is the fact that we're revisiting this like it's new. And I don't understand that, because I know we were saying these things as they were happening. Sure, do we know? Were we privileged to the fact that Bill Belichick was literally a candidate? I mean, in our minds, yeah, of course we were, but were we in the room? No. The Johnson situation with Nick Sirianni, the offensive calling plays, like John Barcher was putting this stuff out there. Hopefully you know these names. People, we were talking about this all last season. There was nothing new from this article, but yet you get everybody down there on August the 7th, and you got to ask them questions right out the chute. Contacting Wink Martindale. That was the new one. I apologize. That was the one new item. Good. Jalen Hurts said, you know what? My Rolodex is deep. I like to contact and use everybody that I can. I get it. Wink Martindale said, no, you know what? No one's ever hit me up before like that. That's fine. Well, Jalen Hurts decided, you know what? This is a guy that I feel like I'm comfortable reaching out to. He's a defense coordinator I just went up against. We're struggling. Why not? Do we have an issue with that? I hope not. And if so, where do you draw the line? Is it okay if he hits up a college defense coordinator? Is it okay if he hits up a friend that was a defensive coordinator? Like, are you upset with the fact that he used to coach the Giants? I don't know. I think it speaks to growth. Good for Jalen Hurts for understanding that something is wrong right now. Look, we have the sound. Jalen answered all the questions that were thrown his way. He knew the article was coming, or the article was going to be discussed. That's what they do. These press, press teams for all these teams speak to the players and say, hey, just so you know, this is going to come up. This is a question. This is an article that's written. This is all they do. They got 25 people down there to handle that sort of thing. So Jalen knew what was coming up. Maybe he didn't know like why exactly that article was written, and that's why he asked Tim McManus, like, why now? Kind of where I'm at, but ESPN knows what they're doing. Timing is everything in life, kids, especially right now. So with that being said, let's slide on over to one of the other topics that I want to discuss, as I just went 10 minutes on the 2023 Eagles. We got a preseason game on Friday against the Baltimore Ravens. Let's talk about that. I'd rather talk about preseason game number 1, literally, than anything that has to do with the stink of a season that was last year. That's my take on everything that ESPN put out today. Like, I want nothing to do anymore with last year. It's over. We just nipped it in the bud, replaced the coordinators. Let's go to battle for 2024. All right. Joining me right now on the Gambler Stream, he covers all things Sixers for us, NBA, and Team USA, because there was a news item that had to deal with Joel Embiid that wasn't all that good. We're going to talk some NBA or some USA basketball, as they are now on to the Final Four and should be very much so on their way to winning a gold medal over there in Paris. Now minus 700 to win the gold in the Olympics. And oh, by the way, just so you know, heading into the Olympics, they were minus 500 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Sean Barnard, and a good afternoon. Sean Barnard, how are we doing today, sir?
Yeah, good afternoon. I can't complain too much here. I've been, I guess, entertaining seeing all the Eagles circles do their thing, go crazy, as tends to be the case. But I've been nice kind of sitting on the sidelines, taking it all in, and more so on your side for pretty much that whole speech. That not a whole lot of new information for me, nothing to be up in arms about whatsoever. And let's just play some football, man. Cannot wait for that to be the case.
Yeah, I get it from Tim's perspective, from Jeremy Fowler's perspective, from ESPN's perspective, but like there was nothing there. Jalen Hurts answered the questions. Let's move on. And Nick Sirianni did it as well. And he talked about accountability. Now, I'm curious, can we now nip the 2023 season in the bud now? Can we move on from it now?
You know, the worst part is no. That the second that there's going to be like a little bit of a slide this year, I guarantee that those are the articles going to coming out. That it's going, this is Jalen and Nick Sirianni, their scars from last year being resurfaced, that we're seeing this. The Eagles should have moved on then. That the second that there is a little bit of turbulence or adversity this year, I guarantee that those articles will be written.
Oh, you're a smart man, Jon Bernard. You are a smart man. All right. Well, like I said, we have plenty of time to talk about all things Eagles. Let's keep it moving, though. Joel Embiid, pretty good game against Brazil. 14 points, 7 boards, 1 block, 1 assist, 5 of 6 from the field, 3 of 3 from downtown. Perfect on the charity stripe as well. So quieted a lot of those doubters. Now, fully, I want to be upfront. There have been times that I just feel like, all right, he seems like he's a little out of shape, a little lethargic at times, but maybe, taking a back seat to some of the great players that are on the team as well. So I don't know. I don't have any complaints about Joel Embiid, but what I don't want to see is him picking up an injury. What's the latest? What are you hearing? When did this happen in this game?
Yeah, it's a tweaked ankle, so not anything that's super major. He did sit the entirety of that second half, but that was a little bit to do with it was a blowout. There was no need for Joel Embiid to be out there. Very clearly, his best half of Olympic basketball was that first half. He was dominant. He was the leading scorer for Team USA, leading in plus minus, and you felt his impact on both sides of the floor. It definitely hasn't been a clean transition to this new style of basketball at the Olympic level, which is much different from the NBA. And just playing, to be honest, I think it's had a lot more to do with just learning to play with these other superstars. That you can't be the ball dominant nature. Joel Embiid, who's been a guy who's been top 5 in usage percentage through the past 5 years in the NBA. So he's a guy that is constantly used to having the ball in his hands and everything revolving around him. That's not going to be the way that things work when you're sharing the floor with LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. So that's definitely been the biggest adjustment for me, although you certainly can critique the level of fitness as well, that he's definitely not in peak condition, I would say. But the bottom line is this isn't an injury that I would say I'm super worried about. I think it's more likely than not that he does suit up and play tomorrow, but we haven't had a clear answer from that from the Team USA standpoint. So stay posted for it. But overall, nothing to panic on the Joel Embiid side, and pretty happy to see him kind of getting in his zone and having fun with things the way that we had until that point.
Yeah, and you and I were talking last week about how good this team is, and LeBron James really being, the number one player out there, and we had a chuckle, but in reality, he looked like he was the best player. I think Anthony Edwards, since our conversation, has, and to be fair, he showed flashes like he is the best player in that team. I know he thinks it, but he's unstoppable, right? No matter who was in front of him, he was getting around him, get the layup. I saw him go down the full court and get like a last second lay in, and nobody could stop him. It just feels like Anthony Edwards, if they needed him to go out there and get 60, he probably could. But this team just has an embarrassment of riches. They're 16.5-point favorites against Serbia. They just rolled yesterday against Brazil. I split that game because I thought the defense would be a little bit better, but they covered that big number of 26. Serbia struggled with their last opponent. Who did they play? They played it wasn't Brazil. It was, who the hell was it?
Wasn't Italy, was it?
No, it wasn't Italy. Who the hell did they play?
I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, it was Australia. Patty Mills.
Yeah,
it was Patty Mills.
Yes. Patty Mills pushed to overtime, yes.
They were down 24 in that game. Serbia trailed by 24. They come back to win the game. It was great. It went to extra or overtime. But 16.5 here, Jon Bernard. Like, is that free money?
Yeah, I still would lay it, to be honest. That we saw this matchup between USA and Serbia in the first game of the Olympics. It was very clear that like the version of Team USA that we've seen yesterday and seen more recently looks very different than what they looked like in that first game. I think it was pretty clear in that opening game that like USA was still figuring out how to play with each other, how to make things work. And I think they've discovered some really good things in the process of that. So I expect a different version of this Team USA team. It is clear like Nikola Jokic is obviously unbelievable and will elevate that team a great deal. I think they will change up the substitution patterns based on what they did in that opening game because as is often the case with these star players, when there is that significant drop off, that things just drop off when they step off the floor. So I don't expect them to be that willing to let that be the case as it was in the first game. But the bottom line is I think this Team USA team is going to be better. And I do expect a blowout in the direction of USA tomorrow.
Did you get a new computer or something?
I did.
Dude,
Yes.
that camera is sharp.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Wow, look at you. Very nice. I don't know what the hell these cameras are doing these days. I said the same. Maybe are my eyes getting better? I don't know. Could be. I said the same thing yesterday. Pacone and him just trolling the timeline. I saw him put a tweet out of a video that the Waltz, the vice president now, or the the guy that's running, the camera that they had was just, dude, like what the hell is going on with technology? It is so sharp. That's a really good computer. Nice work by you on that one, Shabadan. All right, let's keep it moving. Serbia and USA tomorrow at 3 p.m. 16.5-point spread. 188 is your total. Yeah, to bring it back to yesterday's game from USA's perspective, the only thing that disappointed me, I just wish there was a tad bit better defense. Just like, am I wrong for reading into that a little bit much? Should I give a little bit more respect to the other teams? Maybe it's not as easy as it once was, as we've discussed many times on this show heading into the Olympics. Because, and what I mean is, like Kobe looked at Coach K and said, I want the best damn player. Jordan, Dream Team, I want the best damn player no matter who we're going up. And like that sets the tone. Is that non-existent? Am I making it too easy these days? Because, yesterday, the fact that Brazil goes out there and drops, I think they scored 90. Like, I would like to see a little bit better defensive effort from Team USA, because I think they can be better on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like those cool stories of guys wanting those type of challenges, I think we're going to see those in these upcoming games. Like, I would like to hear a Joel Embiid story about that with Nikola Jokic tomorrow, assuming that he's healthy and can step up. Those type of things that I think now we're getting into the real deal of the elite teams across the world. There's going to be a little bit more of that. Not to say that these guys that they're playing are by any means should be diminishing their talent. These are still the best players in the world for sure. And I do think like Team USA still has that kind of willingness to play with their food to an extent that even like in that game against Brazil, there really was no doubt that they were going to win that game from start to finish. And even as Brazil kind of hung in there through the beginning of that one, pretty much it was pretty clear that USA was winning that game from start to finish. So it didn't feel like there was that desire to have this lockdown defense. You can critique that if you want. I think we're grasping straws a little bit to be actually upset about it. But the bottom line is like this team does have another level of defense that I don't think they've rolled out just yet.
Yeah, I'm going to lay the 16.5 tomorrow. I'm going to stay away from anything total related, as I got burnt by that yesterday. Oh, well, I felt like that was such a good play. I felt so smart finding that and just thinking that this defense is going to rise up. And it just did not play any defense in that fourth quarter. Hell, they had 70, I think, going into the fourth for Brazil. All right, Germany and France, they get the party started tomorrow at 11:30. France, a little upset victory. They're catching 5 against Germany. I think from the few games that I've watched with Team USA, Germany gave them a pretty good run for their money, especially in that first half. That's a tough team. Any thoughts on that game at 11:30 tomorrow?
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. One of the interesting storylines, kind of Olympic-wise and basketball-wise, has been Rudy Gobert getting benched for Team France, which is interesting there. That's been one of the appeals of France, is that they've got two of those big 7-footers that can play, and Wembanyama clearly elevating and proving himself as the number one guy, that he is a dude that is going to be in the front running for the top players in the world in the very near future if he isn't already. As far as a complete basketball roster, I've kind of viewed Germany as probably Team USA's biggest threat across the entire Olympics, just from the way that they're constructed as a whole. I think they have the top end talent, the guys that aren't going to be afraid, as far as the Dennis Schroeders, the Franz Wagners, even a guy like Daniel Tice, I think will push this Team USA by playing a stretch 5 position. So they have a pretty balanced roster, and I do think like if things break the right way, either one of these teams could be potential threats. But ultimately, I still think I ride with France having enough there to find a way to get the job done. Wembanyama is the great equalizer from a matchup standpoint, that there really is no way to go about him. And it has been cool to see him doing his thing a little bit. I still don't think he's played his best basketball. I was more impressed with him early on than particularly last game, but he still has a level that he could reach. And I think that's a scary sign for Germany there.
I should have hit you up a little earlier because I wanted to get your Mount Rushmore of USA basketball players, with Kevin Durant becoming the all-time leading scorer. Would you say that Kevin Durant's on your Mount Rushmore there, youngin, as far as Team USA basketball players of all time?
Absolutely. I think
it has to be with that record, right?
Yeah, the longevity of it, I think you can't dispute with Kevin Durant. And like, there's never been doubts about his talent. He's a guy that I think if he was in another era from the LeBron James era, might be in the conversation for how good is this guy truly, because he is one of those, probably the greatest scorer, I would say, of all time. Just real deal 7 foot, the way he can score at 3 levels, rise up and shoot jumpers over a guy. It is kind of a bummer when you think about like the amount of superstars, the LeBron James and Steph Currys that he's played with. Now, granted, you can critique the path that he's taken through his NBA career, and that waters down the conversation to an extent. But the bottom line is Kevin Durant's talent is legit. He's absolutely on the Mount Rushmore of Team USA players. And I think you can make a real convincing argument that he's the #1 best Team USA basketball player of all time as far as what he's done for the country on the national level.
Yeah, you'd have to really shake that out as far as how many Olympic gold medals they've taken. Like, because I don't think Carmelo gets enough, right? And I think he's got 3 gold. I know that not the bronze. I want to make sure that I'm not wrong there. Of course, LeBron was on the team that ended up getting the bronze. So he kind of his resume somewhat takes a hit for some, right? Even though I don't remember him playing all that much. Didn't Larry Brown screw that up, if I'm not mistaken? And he was young in those days too. So look, we'd have to. That's a fun exercise. We'll have to go down the list and see if we can come up with a Mount Rushmore. It is Mount Rushmore season.
Oh yeah.
While we talk about the 2023 Eagles, we can also mix in a Mount Rushmore conversation. All right. Anything new from the Sixers perspective while I have you? Is just holding steady until we get to training camp coming up here?
Yeah, nothing too crazy new in the Sixers world. Still waiting on, there will be another announcement for what that final roster spot will be. And I do think there will likely be 2 moves that I think will be a replacement in the 2-way contract department. Daryl Morey has kind of hinted at that and been pretty open about that throughout the offseason. Kind of surprising that there hasn't been news on it yet, because the last time that he spoke, which was on the Rice Ricky Sanchez podcast, he seemed to indicate that it would be like this week coming, and that obviously has not played itself out yet. I know Marcus Morris has been a common name thrown around, and he's a guy who still looks like Marcus Morris. Got a chance to check him out at the Rumpf Classic, which is he's as much of the heartbeat of Philadelphia basketball as any player ever, I would say. So cool to see him still involved in that. He looks like himself, still, playing like Marcus Morris. I kind of think if that was going to happen, it would have already. So I feel like there is another name that's in the mix at this point, but ultimately waiting on that. And that'll probably be the last big time move, or at least notable until the trade deadline.
Yeah. Talk about the tournament that you were at. Where was that being held at? Let me ask you that.
Community College of Philadelphia there.
Okay, so right there on Spring Garden. Nice. Yep. And then it had everybody. The Rumpf Classic had everybody, including PJ Tucker, who's 39 years old. How many pairs of shoes did he roll out to the gym with?
Plenty. He had plenty, and he was swapping them out, all that. It was cool to see PJ out there, and I will say it stood out in that kind of setting of just like what a real deal competitor that guy is on the defensive end.
He's a dog.
Yeah, absolutely, and pretty cool. Like, there's a ton of talent, guys that aren't NBA names. Cool. Like, seeing him go blow for blow with them on the defensive end was pretty cool. Rajon Rondo pulled up, did not play. A couple other guys just hanging out. A lot of just Philly basketball royalty that was in the crowd there. So a little bit down year, I would say, as far as the guests that typically you see a little more. Isaiah Wong, who's on a 2-way with the Pacers, certainly played out, and a Philadelphia guy himself. So a lot of fun, a lot of good hoops, and ultimately the Morris twins taking home another title there.
Yeah, and Villanova's own who
Colin
was ripping
Gillespie.
It up? Yeah, Gillespie. Like, what? It seemed like he dropped 35 in the first game.
Yeah, he looked unbelievable matching up with our guy Ricky Council IV there, and Ricky did not get the better of that matchup there. So Gillespie was balling. He looked phenomenal. A bunch of impressive finishes around the basket and going there. So another guy that's on a 2-way contract, kind of fighting for his NBA future. So certainly rooting for the guy, and he made quite the performance in that game. Absolutely.
Ricky had the dunk of the tournament, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's Ricky Council kind of set the over under for him for if he gets real minutes, he's putting at least 2 reverse dunks. I mean that in any setting of what he's playing basketball, whether it is a pro-am, whether it is the NBA, Delaware Bluecoats, whatever, that he is a guy that is built for that. Summer League, he was ripping them out as well. So cool to see Ricky taking part in it. He played with the Morrises for the FOE team. So cool to see that there. Cool to see him kind of taking things in. We saw Tyrese Maxey participate not too long ago. There were some whispers that Jared McCain would be making an appearance, but ultimately he did not show face, unfortunately, but maybe next year. So I also got to talk to Justin Edwards, who's another Emotep charter grad and 2-way on a 2-way contract for the Sixers there. So spoke to him a little bit. Hopefully he'll be popping out next year as well. So a lot of cool vibes.
Boots on the ground, Sean Barnard. Just make sure you're looking at the street signs. Okay.
Yeah, that was a tough one there. Little 8 a.m. visit to the Philadelphia Parking Authority to get the whip back.
How much do they get you? How much do they get you for?
$281.
What?
Yeah, not fun at all. Not a great way. Not a great leaving Philadelphia right around midnight once the games wrap up and walking out to my car no longer being there.
Dude, where's my car? No. Yeah, I've had my car booted before, I think like 2 times, and I've been towed probably like 2 or 3 times living in Philadelphia, living in Manayunk. But, sometimes you just pull up and it happened to you, right? Where you're like, this car in front of me was there. And then that kind of like makes you believe you're safe and you don't read. And next thing you know, your car's missing.
Yeah, pretty much that's how it went. I still would like to fight the good battle if I don't think I was in a wrong spot, whatever. But at that point, in the morning, I just wanted to get out of there. So didn't fight the good fight too much there. Paid the pretty penny and got it back. But yeah, not a fun ending to my night or start to my morning there.
I feel for you there on that one, buddy. All right, final one. We did have a piece of NBA news. Lauri Markkanen signed a 5-year, $238 million contract with the Utah Jazz. That's it, right? He's staying. He's not getting traded anywhere else, correct?
Yeah, for at least this year. So kind of the intricacies of this one is there's a 6-month period, like dead period, where you can't be traded after signing an extension. Lauri specifically waited a couple days to sign this extension. So that 6 months will extend past the trade deadline, kind of in effect, no trade clause for 1 year. So well done on his part there. I can imagine in his shoes, he's probably pretty frustrated by being in trade rumors as extensively as he has been. A guy that's already been traded in his career and is really a great player on the grand scheme of things. So happy for Lauri to have a little bit of security there. We'll see how things shake out long term. It still wouldn't surprise me if the Jazz do fetch a high price for him come next offseason, but I do think he's worth taking in as a potential building block for that franchise, and we'll see where the direction goes from there.
Excellent stuff, Sean Barnard. Can't thank you for stopping by. Of course, what's happening with Team USA. Back in action tomorrow. DraftKings Sportsbook. Once again, Team USA, big time, 16.5-point favorites, 188. Not all that. This is sort of spread so far in Olympic Games, I would say. I don't think I remember a spread under 20, that's for sure. So maybe the odds makers are trying to tell us something there, but I'm going to roll. I'll give the 16.5 and think that USA rolls here against Serbia. Sean, we will catch up later this week, sir. Always a pleasure, and enjoy the game.
Perfect. Appreciate it, and talk to you soon, Brace.
My man, there he is, Sean Barnard on the Gambler Stream. All right. Other side, we're going to talk some birds as Jon Jansen walks in. So, from the Sixers, of course, perspective there with Embiid, just a little bit of a bump on the ankle. He should be okay. I don't necessarily think Team USA will need him tomorrow, but it would be cool to see him go up against Joker. And if he doesn't play, I'm sure that people will be respectful and not say that Joel Embiid is ducking Joker at all. I don't think that will be said at all. Yeah, no. Yeah, probably not. All right, Daily Ticket rolling on. Jon Jansen joins me on the other side. We got Jerrold Colton coming up at 4:20. 5 o'clock. Big 5 o'clock hour. Summer ball, talking all things college football. Myself, Mark Henry Jr., Joe Tanzi, and Ryan Beef Coyle. That's on the air. On socials, we're giving away 2 pairs of tickets to Fanatics Fest NYC going down August 16th through the 18th. That's Michael Rubin. All you got to do is follow us on socials, answer a trivia question correctly, and you could win a pair of tickets to Fanatics Fest NYC. More on that a little bit later. Don't go anywhere. Daily Ticket back.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
95 northbound, bumper to bumper, Vine Expressway up to Bridge. We're getting word of a disabled vehicle. Southbound, Jan Cottman to Bridge. Boulevard northbound, barely moving. Schuylkill up to Broad. That's where everyone's being forced off due to an accident investigation. All right, to tell a total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business's needs. From quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options, Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Popeye's Big Box is back. Come in today, and for just $6.99, you can have 2 pieces of our juicy signature chicken or 3 crunchy chicken tenders with your choice of 2 regular sides and a biscuit. But sometimes you have more mouths to feed, so we've added an even bigger box. With Popeye's $20 bigger box, you get 10 pieces of chicken or 10 chicken tenders with 4 biscuits and can feed your whole crew. It's the chicken you crave at a price you'll love for you or your whole family. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Price may vary. Terms apply.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
From the team behind Atlanta Monster and Up and Vanish comes a brand new investigative true crime podcast, Flashpoint. Listen as they explore the homegrown terrorism threat through the lens of the Atlanta Olympic bombing and its aftermath.
There is a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
Listen to Flashpoint on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Open your free iHeart app and search Flashpoint to start listening.
In this week's Marketers Report, Dana Nussbaum, Executive Vice President, Worldwide Marketing at Warner Brothers Discovery, weighs in on regional audio marketing.
Although we're marketing at a very broad scale, it does include specific local markets, and that's the beauty of iHeart's network.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, influencers, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. They'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Happening now on iHeartRadio. All things 2024 Paris Olympics. Listen to NBC's live play-by-play coverage of swimming, basketball, volleyball, gymnastics, and everything Team USA from Paris. All on the free iHeartRadio app. Listen now.
Timmy, everybody. Great job. Next up for our 5th grade class recital, we have Samantha.
10 times better performance can make a big difference. Castrol Edge Motor Oil gives your engine 10 times better high-stress performance. Castrol Edge, better oil for maximum performance. Now through December 28th, Castrol Edge and Edge High Mileage Motor Oil are on rollback at Walmart.
Claim based on sequence 9 test under high-load conditions versus API-SP test limits.
Hey, man, you all right? Need me to call 911? No. Call Top Dog Law. Get top dollar for your accident at topdoglaw.com. Once again, that's topdoglaw.com. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the Daily Ticket. Sorry, some gremlins.
Is that some LA Night there? Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been doing that way before LA Night. All right. Yeah. No, that's a combination. That's Creed. That's like
I guess. I always think of Shine.
Shine,
the Collective Soul
yes,
song.
Yeah. 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 That's it.
That song is that's the yeah song.
Nice. Good pull by you.
That's a great song.
Which, oh, by the way, is the quintessential. That's the second time I've used that word today on this show. I couldn't spell it, but I've used it twice now. That is, if Northeastern Pennsylvania had a sound, it's that. It's Collective Soul. It's Fuel. It's Creed.
Oh yeah,
all wrapped up into one.
Yes, all of my favorites.
Yes, that is.
I'm
it.
a huge Fuel guy, by the way. If anybody doesn't know that, I love the band Fuel.
What did they have? They had. She calls me for love.
Shimmer,
Yeah,
Sunburn,
that's
Jesus or a Gun.
Wow.
Where
that's a strong pull by you.
Yeah, what else? There's more than that. What is it? Irresistible or something like that?
All right, you're a little deep in
now we're going to
yeah.
Hemorrhage. Hemorrhage is a good one.
I mean, they got good too. Let's slow down here.
Hemorrhage is a great one.
It's funny. Last one on this. So yesterday I'm doing some like editing and I'm trying to find like a video or a sound to put underneath the video. And now there's this new genre, this new style. It's not new, but they're calling it, and this is the first time I've heard of this, swagger rock. Now, swagger rock, do you know like the Home Depot sound, that the commercial, the Home Depot commercial, like, you know, the Home Depot. That's swagger rock.
Why is it called swagger rock? What is it? What is anything swag about that?
It's so stupid, but that's
what would be the defining characteristics of swagger rock?
I don't know, but that's
well, I know what they call bands like Nickelback and Creed, like butt rock is what they call that.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah.
All right, Jon Jansen,
which is again, I love all of it.
Yeah.
Creed soon. Creed in like a month? No, less than a month.
Wow. What's the date on that?
The 23rd of August.
Dude.
You going?
No.
You want to go?
It's in Hershey, right?
Yeah, it's in Hershey. It was either that or AC. I didn't want to go to AC.
Is it on what's the 23rd?
A Friday.
Tom, do you have tickets already?
Yeah. Oh yeah. My parents got me tickets for what was it?
Do you have
Christmas,
an extra?
No, I wish I did.
Who are you going with?
I'm going with my roommate and another friend.
Okay.
And we were gonna get more, and then it didn't happen.
I might take you up on that. I don't know. We'll see.
We're gonna get an Airbnb because you know what the next day. We know what the next day is. It's week 0. So we're gonna try and get the Airbnb and stay and just hang out.
Which, oh, by the way, they're not calling it week 0 anymore.
I saw that. That's ESPN got that wrong. It's still week 0, isn't it? It's called week 0. ESPN just got it wrong.
I don't college football schedule week 0. It's an ESPN. I don't know, man. ESPN's lumping it together because I was about to tweet Van Pelt because he was talking about Miami and Florida, and I'm like, yo, SVP, slow it down. Don't be talking about week 1.
Yeah.
We got week 0. So then I went to it just to make sure that I was double checking that game was, in fact, in week 1. And an ESPN lumped all of August 24th through September 2nd on week 1. So I think they're trying to do away with week 0. Which rubs me the wrong way because I just got
what's happening to college athletics?
I just got comfortable calling it week 0 last year.
Well, and week 0 was such a great week of because it wasn't when the season really started. But no, it was like the appetizer before we got to the really good stuff in week 1.
I agree
it was just a good way to start the season and just get the juices flowing. And now what? It's just week 1 now. I don't like that.
College, according to the NCAA here, when does the 2024 college football season start? And they have the 2024 season is set to begin on Saturday, August 24th, and this year's quote week 0. Well,
there you go.
Well, we're going with that. ESPN is just trying to be their own. All right, so Jansen hops in the studio here. Great to have him. And, of course, the big topic of the day is the ESPN article that was written by Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler on all things 2023 Philadelphia Eagles. Now, that season was a disaster. I hate to revisit it. I want to move on. In fact, we got a preseason game against
By the way,
Bucs.
most of this piece is, I know everybody was saying about that with Tim McManus, like, why are you bringing up old stuff? It's tying into, like, what has changed now. What in that relationship between those two is changing, what Sirianni is doing. It is a lot about what's happening this year.
I have no issues whatsoever with T-Mac and ESPN
Not
writing
at
the
all.
article, but
No.
at the same time, they do know
It naturally does bring up old stuff. Yeah.
timing. Like, they do things with a purpose, and you see it often with New England and all these articles being written. So your big takeaway from the article, not to put words into your mouth, was you kind of look at Nick Sirianni a little bit differently.
Yeah, maybe it's affirmation of things that we thought that was happening, that, hey, they didn't know how to stop a blitz, and that's just Sirianni's system. But he was really stubborn and almost in a way makes him seem clueless, because when your quarterback has to call the other defensive coordinator, then he could have called him because Wink Martindale got fired. So he was able to call him after what I think was the Week 18 game and go, what'd you guys do? What was the game plan? And they talked for a half an hour of all the holes, the weaknesses in your offense. Why can't your quarterback talk with you through that? Why can't you and your quarterback figure that out? Are you that stubborn, or are you that clueless to not let your quarterback help you figure this out, or to be able to listen to ideas, or know yourself, hey, we can't stop a blitz and the team is blitzing us over 60% of the time, or whatever it was that the Giants were doing. Maybe I have a problem here. There's just never felt like there was anything of I have a problem until way after the season, when it seemed like Nick Sirianni was in survival mode trying to keep his job. I don't know if he was, but that to me, then all of a sudden after the season, why do you change your mind on, I had to reflect and things had to change? Yeah, because you were probably going to get fired. And the thing is, it maybe leads to good things, because it does seem like he's reflected on last season.
Correct.
There is a necessary change made. But going through a season like that, it's one thing to learn a lesson. It's another thing of that's a lesson you needed to be learned. That's something that you needed to figure out through a season, that your offense needed to be more than just a gimmicky six play or whatever it was. They only run a handful of plays in Sirianni's offense, and that there needed to be change, and you couldn't do it. You couldn't figure it out. And so maybe that's just what their offense was. It's hard to install stuff during the season, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you got to come up with better answers than that. The better answer has to be with you, not your quarterback calling an opposing defensive coordinator to figure out your offense. That's just that sounds horrible.
Now, the season was over when he did call him.
Now, what's the season over? I didn't know if it was
said going into the Tampa Bay Bucs game.
That's what I thought. Okay, it was going into the playoff game.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
that's what I thought. Yeah. By the way, Wink Martindale was already fired by then.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, so there's two parts. Obviously, you talk about the quarterback and you talk about the head coach, and I have sound from both of these guys at today's press conference. We'll get into that in just a second. But for me, and I've never been a Sirianni guy. He has proved his worth, 3 straight trips to the playoffs. I thought he deserved an opportunity to get another shot this upcoming season. I would not have been surprised if he did get fired, but here we are. That article, it didn't really, maybe dude got a little bit full of himself after the Super Bowl run, a little bit too hands-on. It's my way or the highway. But that doesn't surprise me, because that's the head coach mentality, no matter who you are, right? We have in our mind this perfect world of a head coach being able to motivate you and do all the right things. But, Nick Sirianni never came off like that to me. And
he never came off power hungry. And then all of a sudden, this article, he did. And I think that threw me off a bit.
I think look, and especially with how last year played out, again, there was no complaints in the beginning of the year, right? Everything was great. Everything was moving in the right direction. I know there was some second guessing from some fans out there, but in the most part, they went 10-1, right? So it's
it is bad, though, when they didn't even feel like they were 10-1. Because it was mentioned by Tim McManus in the article that they knew there were problems, and they were hoping some of the losses that happened afterwards would finally get them to change something. And that's the problem, is things started, they were winning, but they knew they weren't going to be able to sustain it. Once they started losing, they thought, okay, now the coach is going to make the switch. Now we can figure out what to really fix. And then none of the fixes happened. And I think frustration just grew more and more after that.
All right. Well, again, I am not a big Sirianni guy, and
And
why is Kobayashi so good at eating hot dogs?
Like we got all these for days here.
But it's so funny because we get that press cut. We get that stuff from Sirianni. He just seems like kind of a goofy players coach kind of guy that this stuff wouldn't happen. And then all of a sudden it paints this picture of him kind of power hungry. And maybe there's certain underlying reasons for it. I think one of them could be was he upset that everybody was really calling it Shane Steichen's offense.
Yeah.
And that Shane Steichen was the reason why. And it wasn't Sirianni that was getting credit for this offense that, by the way, was his. Shane Steichen and his offense were two of the same. But it just wasn't working this time around because teams are going to figure out. And he had no answer for it. But yeah, it just there was something to that. I don't know why all of a sudden this coach we get in the press conferences who's really goofy, seems like a player's coach, all of a sudden comes off as very power hungry.
Well, this is Sirianni talking about essentially the article from today where they mentioned the springtime meeting. You're going to hear a Q&A. It's tough to hear the question, but trust me when I tell you that was the question. And then you can hear Sirianni's answer, which I think he does a good job, but he just continues to word vomit. And it's like, dude, you should have stopped at about 45 seconds. Instead, he went about 2 minutes. But here you go. Have a listen for yourself.
Accountability, right? Is the only way to get better is to really look through the things that you felt like you messed up and get better at them, right? But it starts with the humility to say, I messed this up. I need to be better at this. If you want a culture of accountability, and you're not being accountable yourself. Let me rephrase this. If I want Taylor Sirianni to be accountable, I actually just talked about this to our staff today. If I want Taylor Sirianni to be accountable and she sees me blaming things on other people at all time, I'm raising a child that's not going to be accountable. Well, it's the same thing with a team, right? If I'm not accountable to that I mess up, pardon my language, if I'm not accountable to the things that I mess up, how am I going to expect them to be accountable to what they mess up, right? And so that's been day one here. That's just not off season 2024 going into the 24 season. That's been what I'm trying to do day one. And I think our world is dying for accountability in a world where there's so many things that you can blame things on. I've said this before. One of the most proud I've ever been of this team is after the Super Bowl, after a loss in the Super Bowl, everyone was trying to give us an out, but the field was really bad, right? Now they had to play, and the response of our players to that, no, they had to play on it too. But that call on Bradbury, I mean, that's what lost it. No, it was a series of plays. But what about this? And what about that? And what about how they have it was everybody was trying to hand us an excuse, and they just kept going back to no accountability. That's a team. That's the culture that we want to have. That's the family I want to have as accountability. And accountability is just it's just so important. If you don't have accountability, then you're not going to get better.
I promise you this. He went for another 45 seconds. I cut it off. That's a minute 57-second soundbite from Sirianni.
I get the point he was making. Yeah, he took a little too long.
He's never been great on the microphone. I think he's improved. I just have never been that big on Nick Sirianni, but he has shown that he can lead and take this team to the next level and get them to the Super Bowl. And they were a couple plays away from winning it all. But I wouldn't have been shocked if Bill Belichick would have been the next head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I do want to bring this up as we put a bow on this because we got 2024 NFL discussion to get into with you today. Ryan Beef Coyle, our guy Ryan Beef Coyle, tweeted out a little earlier today that I want to know your take on this, but essentially saying that he is on the hot seat. He says, looks like Bill Belichick was in serious consideration for the Eagles this offseason. Is there any coach that has more pressure on himself to deliver this year than Nick Sirianni? What do you say to that?
Wow, pressure on himself to deliver. I think the hard thing for me is that the Eagles are so good that there is going to be some kind of how much does he have to deliver though? Is it a Super Bowl? Is it just overall a healthy?
No, can't.
Because the problem for me at the end of the season wasn't they lost so many games. It was a Super Bowl hangover year. It was a tough year. They really couldn't get things together. But I don't like all that stuff coming out of it. Just didn't feel like a healthy locker room for what we thought was a really great organization, great locker room. all of a sudden this coach is just fostering this environment that has people kind of frustrated with each other, and frustration happens. It's always going to happen during a season like that. I would be shocked if they weren't frustrated, but the fact that they couldn't collaborate and how to figure that out, and that Sirianni was just trying to do it almost by himself, that raises like red flags to me. So I think to me, it's the pressure of winning, yes, is always going to be there. If Sirianni doesn't win with this roster, then Sirianni, he's got to go. This roster is way too good. And that's any coach. I don't care how good the coach is. If they have the roster that Sirianni has been handed to him, like the Eagles handed to Sirianni, you have to win.
Yeah.
You have to win. You have to be in playoffs all the time. You have to win the division. You have to be an NFC contender. Could you imagine if Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers, like with that roster, the past couple of seasons really didn't do much? I know they haven't won a Super Bowl, but obviously they've been damn close, and that's where they should be.
Did you see the news today?
What's that?
McCaffrey got hurt.
Oh, I did see. What's the injury?
Calf. He's not going to play this preseason, but man, that's not what you want to see.
Okay, did see that.
Yeah.
So he's going to be ready, but the thing is,
Brandon Ayuk.
That's not what you want.
Going to be gone.
That's huge.
McCaffrey hurt.
That's huge.
Trent Williams still holding out. I think the 49ers could be taking a step back this year. I know that somebody was saying that the other day on ESPN. I kind of was buying what he was selling. It was,
and I actually kind of agree with that. But I mean, the roster is so good for the Eagles. You have to win. There's a lot of pressure to deliver on.
Could not agree with you more. And I said it not even about Nick Sirianni yesterday, John. I said it's about Jalen Hurts this year.
I still think there's pressure on him, too.
There's tons of pressure on Jalen Hurts. And it's not just winning the division. It needs to be a special damn season. There is just too many players on this offense that can make you plays. Like, I don't want to hear the excuses. I don't want to hear these struggling on third down. I don't want to hear play calling. It's his third. Like, all that's the reality, but I'm sorry. It's go time. He has to deliver, or else people are going to be unfair, and he's going to hear some unwarranted criticism at the same time.
And none of this, so saying all of that about Sirianni doesn't absolve Jalen Hurts of any wrongdoing from last year. There were things that he wasn't doing right, that he wasn't doing well, and that cost them games too. Now, I think the Sirianni problem to me is more concerning, because if you can't collaborate, or at least be so stubborn with how your offense is run, and that's how you are as a coach, and you can't figure that out on a week-to-week basis, that does raise red flags for me more than it would the quarterback. The quarterback, it's more, what are you? Are you, because a couple of years ago, he's the MVP guy, and this guy could potentially be a top 5 quarterback or whatever everybody wanted to say he was. But for the most part, last year, he didn't look anything close to that. And there were a lot of things that he did that were contributing to that, not just how the offense was. The offense certainly played a part in it in some way, but Jalen Hurts' decision-making and overall play also didn't live up to what an MVP quarterback, or at least a quarterback making his kind of money, should be like.
Agreed. Got Jalen Hurts sound. If you want to hear that a little bit later, we'll get into that.
Saying all that, though, the last thing to wrap a bow on it, it does sound like everything's a bit healthier now. Now, winning is going to help everything. If they win, they'll be fine. But it does seem like there is at least, it took them too long to learn the lesson, but at least they did.
Oh, I think that was my biggest.
Certainly.
That was my number one question from the article that I could, if I wanted to, drive calls and get into. It's like, do you feel better or worse? Right? Like, after reading that article, knowing
that's a good question.
Knowing how the reality of the season played out and where we're at today. And this article is now delivered 2 days before preseason game number 1 versus the Baltimore Ravens. Like, do you feel better or worse? And I do feel better. Like, get it out in the open. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's fix the problems. Let's get new play callers in here. Let's add a couple pieces. Let's rip the Band-Aid off, turn the page, and let's go to battle on Friday. Like, it's a new damn year.
Well, yeah. So there's two ways to look at that. I feel worse about what happened last year. That was terrible. And not only did it get
disgusting.
bad, but the fact that, again, the head coach was too stubborn to really figure anything out. And it was either my way or the highway. The offense is going to be run this way. Jalen Hurts is trying to give him, hey, I want new ideas. I want some of these things that might help me. Wasn't that one of the things that I thought Doug Peterson did really well? He would listen to Nick Foles and go, what do you like to do? What is it that you particularly do well? Philly. Like, what are the RPO? Like, the RPO he ran so much with Nick Foles because Nick Foles just felt really comfortable with it. And I think, Andy Reid does a great job with that with all the quarterbacks that he's had throughout his career. And so there always has to be how do I make my quarterback comfortable? And your quarterback's going to you and telling you, I'm kind of uncomfortable with the way things are going right now. And your answer was, too bad. That's how the offense is run. That's what our offense is. So it made me feel worse about last year. I feel like they're in a solid place, though, like a good place this year. And understanding that things went wrong last year, Nick Sirianni gets to take a step back. Gets to be a little bit more hands-off, more involved with all parts of the team. That's what we've heard too, that he's been working with the defense, been working with the offense. This team is still going to be playing in his kind of vision, but it's more hands-off and letting people be able to manipulate what Sirianni wants to do, or at least add to it in a way, which is very good. And that, to me, is a healthy sign.
All right. Other side, we're going to get into the world of the NFL. Newcomers and rookies, new faces and new places, expectations for some of the big names that have signed elsewhere in the NFL. Plus, I want to gauge Jon Jansen's thoughts on a few of these rookies as our fantasy football drafts are all approaching. It's time to start answering these questions and locking in with hopefully some right decisions. We're going to have all that information on the other side. Plus, an interesting take from Devin White, new Eagles linebacker, who, you know what, man, I know people were somewhat down on the signing due to the PFF rating, but
saying the right things so
absolutely far. Saying the right things. I'll have that for you on the other side as well. Plus Jerrold Colton at 420. A perfect day to have Jerrold, because that dude is dialed in. Special stuff taking place with Jari Evans, who is a family member with us here on the Gambler Gang, and what's taking place down there in New Orleans. We'll have all that for you on the other side. Big 4 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere more after this.
iHeartRadio Olympics Update.
The first round of women's golf of the Paris Olympics is in the books. American Lilia Vu is tied for third at 2 under. Nelly Korda is tied for 13th. Meanwhile, Team USA's Emma Hunt came up short in today's women's speed climbing.
Nice clean start, really powerful. Emma, big slip there.
American Colin Duffy qualified for the final in men's boulder and lead climbing.
For NBC's live coverage from Paris, search Olympics on the free iHeartRadio app.
When something happens to your kitchen and you say,
"This is ludicrous,"
you get
having trouble? Don't panic. Don't be alarmed. You need to file a claim? Holla at State Farm.
That's right. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over. And if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
Stay tuned to Fox PHL The Gambler for the latest CEOs you should know.
Greg Karen, I'm the president and CEO of the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. With Downy Unstoppables, you just toss, wash, wow, for all-day freshness.
Timmy, everybody. Great job. Next up for our 5th grade class recital, we have Samantha.
10 times better performance can make a big difference. Castrol Edge Motor Oil gives your engine 10 times better high-stress performance. Castrol Edge, better oil for maximum performance. Now through December 28th, Castrol Edge and Edge High Mileage Motor Oil are on rollback at Walmart.
Claim based on sequence 9 test under high-load conditions versus API SP test limits.
It's Mattress Firm's semi-annual sale and clearance. Save up to 60% on a wide selection of quality mattresses at every price. Plus, score a free adjustable base with a qualifying purchase. Hurry and stop by Mattress Firm today.
This is former Notre Dame quarterback Brady Quinn. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by Progressive Insurance.
ESPN's reporting the relationship between Eagles coach Nick Sirianni and QB Jalen Hurts became fractured last year, leading to a late-season collapse. To baseball, where the Phillies will be looking for a series win in L.A. tonight. Rookie right-hander Tyler Phillips takes the ball there for Philly. And U.S. men's volleyball will have to settle for a bronze medal at best after losing to Poland in today's Olympic semis. I'm Scott Davidson.
Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. That's Progressive.com.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Regina 95 northbound from the airport to Broad Street and Vine Expressway up to Bridge. Southbound back to Cottman to Bridge. Boulevard northbound barely moving Schuylkill to Broad. Everyone has to exit there due to an accident investigation. All right, to tell it, total traffic.
This report is sponsored by WhatsApp.
Me and the kids were always messaging. They LOL'd, I ROFL'd, but then I changed phone and the bubbles went green. But where there's a fill, there's a way. And I found a way to share what's in here. I'm tapping my heart.
WhatsApp, the place to safely send messages between different devices. Message privately with everyone.
In this week's Marketers Report, Dana Nussbaum, Executive Vice President, Worldwide Marketing at Warner Brothers Discovery, weighs in on regional audio marketing and the movies.
Everything that we are doing is incredibly data-driven. We are getting signals in every single day about how specific audiences are performing. So although we're marketing at a very broad scale, and that does include specific local markets, that's really the beauty of iHeart's network. You're not serving the same message to a consumer in Nashville necessarily that you may be in New York. You have the ability to be very specific and very personalized, but at a tremendous scale.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to all, from national to local, every audience, live conversations, trusted influencers, and the insights and data you need to grow. Not just a media company, iHeartMedia is your access company. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
Taco Bell's new cheesy street chalupas have a lot going for them. For one, they come in pairs, both with your choice of shredded chicken or grilled marinated steak. Then there's the cheesy chalupa shells and creamy jalapeno ranch sauce. Can't count those out either. But the star of the show is their authentic street style, topped with onions and cilantro, and perfectly sized for eating one-handed. You know, while you're walking around the street or your living room, wherever. Grab some cheesy street chalupas at a participating Taco Bell today.
For a limited time only while supplies last.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up, Oscar! La, 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 la.
Your home for Villanova basketball is WDAS and WD273D, Fox Sports Radio Philadelphia.
This world, Jon Jansen, is crazy. And a good afternoon, Daily Ticket. For
Guess what? It's crazy, and Philly is just the center of it. Everything runs through Philly. America doesn't run on Duncan.
Why do you think that it runs through Philly?
I don't know. It's just like everything has just been coming up Philly lately.
Give me an example.
Just like yesterday. What was it that both vice presidents were talking? One was at the 2300 arena.
Oh,
I think the other one was at
yeah.
the Core Center.
Yeah.
But it just feels like every big moment recently has been Philly.
Yeah. You're right about that.
Ever
boss.
since the Four Seasons landscaping, it's been all Philly.
Nothing but great things happen in the city of brotherly love. All right, Jon Jansen, great to have you, sir. A lot to discuss with you in the world of the NFL. First of all, breaking news for all you fantasy freaks and NFL fans, right across the board. Christian McCaffrey unlikely to play in preseason due to calf strain, per Kyle Shanahan. Now, there's 2 ways to look at it. Of course, Shanahan says he did it a couple days ago. He's all right. He didn't pull anything, but you guys probably won't see him this preseason. Understood, right? Like, you could take it, his word.
How much were we going to see him anyway in the preseason?
Yep, exactly. Like, this isn't a big deal, right? No big deal. Let's move on. We'll see you in week 1. Or he's not going to tell you that. You could look at it like he's not going to tell you the truth no matter what. because there's injuries that are happening with Justin Herbert. Like, I don't believe that for a second. Oh, it's only going to be 2 weeks. Okay, sure. We'll see what happens in 2 weeks.
No, that foot injury? No
you
way.
You could go down the list of all these little these little small injuries. Sure. These coaches are all making them sound, it's no big deal. We'll be all right in the grand scheme of things. But I'm not buying it, right? They're not going to tell you the truth no matter what. So Christian McCaffrey with a calf strain before the season even gets started. Now, I know he's been healthy and he's looked great in a 49ers uniform, and I thought he should be the number 1 overall pick in fantasy drafts across the board. But when he was with the Panthers, that was the first thing in my mind was that dude gets hurt. So, a couple ways you can look at it, and we're all going to have those tough decisions to be made if we get the number 1 overall pick.
I think I'd still make it my number 1 overall pick, but yeah, you get more concerned because now that can linger into the season. Maybe that comes up again. Maybe there's another calf strain that happens, or maybe he just starts off a little slow. Maybe he doesn't look 100% healthy. It's one thing to be out there and playing. That's good, but we saw like Jalen Hurts last year. There was some injury, whatever he had, not 100% out there, and he didn't look the same. He didn't run the same. And that's something I'd be worried about with a running back, especially like Christian McCaffrey, who's had a lot of mileage now on him. He's had injuries before. Which one's going to be the one to kind of slow him down a little bit and still be a good running back, most likely, because he's a great athlete and just overall great talent. There's going to be something that slows him down a little bit. And not saying that a calf strain it's just that maybe this is, at least for this season, a sign of something that could be a little bit more troubling than just, maybe he'll be out there. Is he going to be effective, though? How effective?
All right, give me 30 seconds on this one. Is Brandon Ayuk good enough to have
amazing? Yes.
Why do you say that? Because the attention that he is getting paid right now, and I get it, it's August 1st or first week of August, but like we're making this dude out to be literally Justin Jefferson. You say Brandon Ayuk is a game changer.
I think he is. I think he's at least a top 15 wide receiver.
Okay, why?
At least he was top. I thought he was top 10 last year. Explosive. He's got great route running. It took him a long time for Shanahan to really trust him, but once he has, he's been the best part of that offense. He's been one of their biggest playmakers, and he's been one of their just most pure talented wide receiver. Debo's talented in a different way because Debo can be this kind of Swiss Army knife and do a bunch of things running the ball, and he's great after the catch. But Ayuk is the better wide receiver. He has great hands, again, explosive, good route runner, just does everything right. Like I like him better than that. I think he's really close, but I think he's better than Devontae Smith. If we're gonna go there, at least I think that. And then you can have conversations going even further. I think he's a top 10 to 15 wide receiver, and he was certainly that last year.
You think Brandon Ayuk is better than Devontae Smith?
Yeah, I do. I said that before sometime last year, and I got a lot of criticism for that.
Man, Devontae special.
Brandon Ayuk special.
Now, I was surprised. He graded out like top 5 wide receiver on PFF.
Who, Ayuk?
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured he was.
Okay.
I figured he was high up there.
A lot of targets come his way. Understood. I get it, but
it's what he does with the targets too, because they're good amount of targets that come his way, but he doesn't drop a lot of them, and he also makes the most with them. Like it seems like he is gaining a lot of yards, big chunk plays. All game-changing stuff.
All right, we got 10 minutes until Jerrold Colton joins us. We'll get back to the Eagles.
I want the Eagles to get him.
Who? Brandon Ayuk?
I don't care.
I don't care if it's why do you say?
I don't care if it's.
I say Ayuk.
Ayuk. Why? Wait, what was I saying? Ayuk.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about
every team should be looking to get.
I agree, but yeah, look, I'll take them all day, of course, for to make a 3-headed monster with AJ and Devontae and then Brandon Ayuk. Sure. Who's the number 3 receiver for the Eagles right now?
Paris Campbell.
I was going to say Paris Campbell, correct? All right, I want to ask you about this. Speaking of players coming off of injuries, let's talk about some rebounds for this upcoming season and the expectations. Where are you at right now? Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow got hurt for people that don't remember pretty much early into the season. He didn't play all that much. He had 6 or 7 starts, if I'm not mistaken? Or no, it was week 11. Week 11 is when he went down. That's right. So Joe Burrow, are we putting everything behind us from the injury perspective and just expect him to be a top 5 quarterback this upcoming year for the Cincinnati Bengals?
No, because isn't that wrist injury? He's going to be coming into the season healthy, But the wrist injury was a bigger deal than I think everybody, even including Cincinnati, made it out to be, because he's still kind of dealing with it right now. What, didn't he come into the training camp with some kind of pitch count, or couldn't do almost everything because there's still some lingering effects of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something weird happened there. And I don't know why I'm getting such a awkward, weird vibe from Cincinnati. I guess because there are a lot of contract talks, especially with T. Higgins. It's a good thing that T. Higgins is there, because the one thing that Cincinnati has always needed was those 2 wide receivers, because I don't think Zach Taylor's offense has been, it's not anything spectacular. I don't really think it's that good, but it's yielded results. It's not like Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay. There needed to be, I think, a lot of extra work done from Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and even to a certain extent Joe Burrow, to make that offense to work the way it did. But can it just get back there? And Joe Burrow's been dealing with injuries his entire career. It's not like it's just been this one injury. There's been nagging injuries all over the place. And in terms of fantasy, if this is a fantasy question, it's not like Joe Burrow was ever a great fantasy quarterback to begin with. So I'd have my reservations on him. There are many quarterbacks that take over him.
Though he's consistent.
He is more that I would be fine, more than fine having him as a quarterback on my actual team. In fantasy, though, it's just, again, the playing time's not always there. It's not like he puts up a ton of yards or puts up a ton of touchdowns all the time. And the offense really isn't made for that. It doesn't feel like it is. I'm not a big fan of overall the production in Cincinnati.
Okay.
It just works out better because he's a poised quarterback. He does really well in the playoffs, and that's usually when we see Joe Burrow shine. But it's not like he's putting up ridiculous. I'd rather still take Dak Prescott over Joe Burrow.
All right, another consistent quarterback there as well, and a little bit more consistently in front of Joe
And
Burrow.
I imagine, is he in front? I didn't know how close their ADP would be. I figured that would be at least close of a comparison of quarterbacks together that I would take.
Maybe
Dak has risen up there, because Dak obviously last year was incredible.
I want no parts of anything Dallas this year. Like
Really?
folks are taking CeeDee Lamb like top 5, maybe 2 or 3. Like, I'm passing on that. I don't want anything to do with CeeDee Lamb. I don't want anything to do with Tyreek Hill either, or Jamar Chase, if I'm honest with you. Which
Jamar Chase is one I'm a little down on.
Yeah, I had Jamar last year, a bad taste in my mouth, but the whole contract situation, it doesn't sit well with me.
Am I wrong in saying that? Do you feel that way about Cincinnati? That just something feels a little off.
I think that division is going to be a little bit tougher this year. That's for damn sure. I like the way Pittsburgh is fighting right now. I'm buying the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, but who are you buying into a quarterback?
Justin Fields.
Are you buying into Fields? I think I'm buying.
You start Fields. All right. I want to ask you about Anthony Richardson, because this is another quarterback that ended up getting hurt. He got hurt in week 5. He had an injury in like week 3 with the concussion, and then his season ended with the serious shoulder injury in week 5. But he did rush for a bunch of touchdowns in those first 3 games, and the sky is extremely bright in Indianapolis for that offense with Shane Steichen. Your thoughts on Anthony Richardson year 2?
Barring any injury, that's the only thing you're going to worry about with Anthony Richardson, because he's a running quarterback and he's a physical quarterback. So there are going to be times that he's going to put himself in harm's way more than other quarterbacks. But it's also the reason why he is probably a top 5 quarterback when healthy. I mean, the rushing ability is way too good. The explosiveness in terms of arm talent, some of the throws he made, especially deep down the field, the intermediate to the deep passes, were unbelievable that he could make. So there's just so much room for big, explosive chunk plays. And Shane Steichen's offense gives him the opportunity to do that. We saw how good Jalen Hurts was in that kind of offense when he was running the ball really well. And Jalen Hurts became one of the better fantasy quarterbacks. I think was the best fantasy quarterback that year. I think that's the kind of production you can expect, at least close to it, and maybe better running, but that kind of production with Anthony Richardson into Indianapolis. I think they have somewhat good talent around them. Michael Pittman is a good wide receiver, so they at least have some talent around him. It's just more infatuated with the system that has worked for the kind of quarterback that Anthony Richardson is. And Anthony Richardson already showed, in a small sample size, albeit, but showed that there's a lot of production there. There's a lot of room for him to put up some pretty big numbers.
Yeah, I actually have a piece on Anthony Richardson for comeback player of the year for this upcoming season for the NFL. I think it was 750 plus 750 on DraftKings Sportsbook. I already have that wagered. Let's see.
What was his number?
Pull it up, right? Plus 750.
Okay.
Look, I from the standpoint of what took place with that award, going to Flacco last year, and then they changed how they're going to vote on it in the future. I feel like it's going to have to be just a plain and simple award to give away this upcoming season. And what I mean by that is somebody that got hurt, right? Like you could see it, torn ACL, something like that, to the true definition of a comeback player. I think, Flacco winning kind of opened their eyes like, all right, maybe we need to make some adjustments here. And they came out and the AP said, here's the true definition and how we're going to vote for that. So I think that you're going to see voters. Voters are going to put a little bit more emphasis on that, in my opinion. Now, Chubb, we'll see what happens there. He could possibly
He's another one.
Yep.
Yeah. Especially because if that offense runs through him again this year and he puts up another 13 to 1,500 yards, which it could, because they might have to make a decision on what kind of offense they are, depending on if Watson ever figures it out. And I think eventually you would flip going from, I know we're going to be quarterback centric, Deshaun Watson, we paid all the money, but at some point you got to go, well, running the ball last year really worked for us with Joe Flacco. And maybe that's just what we are.
Mark this one down. I'm going to get some action on this. Now, I'm a little cautious about his production just because there are a lot of mouths to feed with this offense, but he has a hell of a story. And I love me some Tank Dell. He's at 40-1 for comeback player. He got shot. Dude got shot.
When did he get shot?
He got shot this offseason.
Did he really?
Yeah, he got shot. He went to a pool party, and next thing you know, some people started shooting.
How did that get under the radar for me?
I don't know. That's
a big story.
It happened in March or April.
And he's already coming back from a major injury, too.
So he's got two for. Now, the problem is you got Nico Collins, you got Diggs, you got Joe Mixon in the backfield, Dalton Schultz at the tight end position. There's another receiver I'm missing for the Houston Texans.
Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins,
Tank Dell,
Dalton Schultz.
They got another one.
They got Joe Mixon.
I said Joe Mixon.
Okay.
Anyways,
I forget the other wide receiver.
Yeah, they have a lot of mouths to feed, but I think Tank Dell, with what he went up against, watch out. Also, Justin Fields at 35-1. Just a little something there. Comeback player.
Justin Fields would be a great one. I wouldn't hate that, because there is a narrative of coming back. I mean, he just got traded to be almost essentially a backup quarterback.
Correct.
But he would win the starting job, get the Steelers to maybe places that they haven't been previously. Yeah, Fields is a good one.
All right, I love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we now head out to the Gambler Hotline, and we are joined by our Olympic correspondent. He is live on the banks of the Schuylkill, checking out all things regatta happening down there on Kelly Drive. I kid. Folks, Eagles, of course, season is right around the corner. We got a preseason game coming up. We have all this hoopla revolving around the ESPN article, and our own Jari Evans has just been officially announced that he will be heading up into the New Orleans Saints Ring of Honor. And this incredible. Next gentleman, it was unbelievable. The videos were so good. Ja was about to cry in front of all the team. It was great. He was the agent of Jari Evans and a close friend of his, and of course, a close friend of the Gambler Gang. You hear him, you love him. Mr. Jerrold Colton joining us right now. Jerrold, what's happening, partner?
I'm great, Sean. How are you guys doing?
Another day in paradise, my friend.
The show sounds fantastic today. You guys are in mid-season form.
Well, it's just because Jansen's here. He's been leaving me by myself, and I've been like just drowning. Let me tell you about the Phillies.
But Jansen makes comments like Brandon Ayuk is better than Devontae Smith out of nowhere.
I've said that before. I know I have. I think I have.
I had to pull that up, and I think his point's a really good one. But it was like, it's just he takes things to places you're not thinking.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And you know what? There are a lot of people out there that would agree, and there's a lot of people in Philadelphia that would disagree. And I'm one of those people that immediately I go, I'll take Devontae. Like, I think Devontae is a special player, and Brandon Ayuk, maybe I'm just not paying attention enough, but I know he is good. I'm not trying to say he's a bad wide receiver, but man, all this attention, these articles, everything being written about this guy, like he's going to completely revolutionize an offense. I think it's a little overkill. That's all. All right. Hey, we'll spend time talking about Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers later.
And yeah, when he's traded to the Eagles.
Yeah,
that's not happening. But you can't have that kind of money in that position.
No.
But I will say one thing, by the way, on your Olympic introduction, because I am a big fan of the Olympics, as crazy as it can be, and as much as there's bad stuff, there's so much great stuff. And we like the red zone, all right? And our old NBC Sports Philadelphia guy, Comcast Sportsnet, Scott Hansen, who just does an amazing job. Well, he's doing the gold zone for the Olympics. And this last hour was some of the most compelling TV watching, and I'm not kidding.
What are the sports, Jerrold? What are the sports?
I don't want to give stuff away. Taekwondo was one of them, so they weren't all great.
Nice.
And we do have artistic swimming, and but there was an unbelievable steeplechase.
Oh, jeez, steeplechase.
Yeah, I just saw that.
400 and the men's 400.
Men's 400 was
telling
good.
you,
Yeah.
I'm telling. There's also women's pole vault. There were 9 gold medals in an hour that were
I love it.
Listen, it's August. Okay, we can talk Phillies and torture ourselves every day, or talk exhibition football. I happen to like the Olympics.
No, and it's not to sit here and say that I'm just laughing with you. Let's just put it that way, not laughing at you, because I go home, Jerrold, and I watch this on the replay. Of course, we have it on front of us right now. I got the 4-box in studio right here. We got Italy versus France volleyball. We got handball, Norway and Sweden, I want to say. We're dominating the medal count 94-65.
Yeah,
China
also,
in second place.
I think women's basketball's on. U.S. is beating Nigeria like 52-33 at the
Yeah.
half.
Oh, yeah. No, we're all Olympic up, but it's just so funny. It's like taekwondo and rock climbing and bicycle, all that. Like,
And
I would
swimming's
never.
always one of the better ones. I've been more into swim. I feel like some of the swim races have been electric. Those have been some of my favorites.
They've been good. They've been good.
But I love the track and field, and that's what
Oh,
we're doing right now. And we have, and in the American team, we've got fabulous women on this American team, and I mean that. I'm not trying.
No.
You'll never take me seriously.
No, I will. I will. And our own Roy Burton was boots on the ground in Paris. My man saw track and field. He was over there, saw soccer, volleyball, which was just an incredible scene with the Eiffel Tower in the backdrop. Just tremendous stuff. I think the Olympics have been so good. Jerrold, I have while we're still on this Olympic conversation, I just want to say, putting all of them to the side, because there was nothing better than Scotty Scheffler's performance in that final round. That's all.
And well, I'll tell you what, simultaneously with that was Djokovic against Alcaraz.
I was just about to say, what a match that was.
They were simultaneous, and I happen to think Joker's the best of all time. He wanted that so badly, and he played so great, and Alcaraz was fantastic. I mean, Joker's, towards the tail end, Alcaraz is 21 and just won the last 2 majors. It was such great tennis theater, and it was so emotional for Djokovic. At the same time, Scheffler's back 9 on that last day was incredible. And I mean, those are historically not Olympic sports, not what you think about, because those are 2 of the greatest professional athletes in the world. But it was really, really great to watch. And I agree with you. That was fun. They've got the women's tournament going on now. So you got more golf to watch.
That's right. That's right. And then Jerrold did tee this up without giving it away, but you're going to want to see the 400 yard dash with Quincy Hall, the American, because that was pretty damn special.
Now you just watched it.
I saw it earlier when it immediately after it happened live, and just the comeback, it's just tremendous. So
I wasn't going to give this spoiler.
Well, that's all right. That's all right.
And by the way, it's meters, not yards.
400 meter.
Yeah, Brace.
400 meter. Yeah, it's not 400 yarder. Yeah, it's not yard. It's 400 meter. Okay, yeah, you're right. Sorry. Just say the number. That's all people care about. All right.
Come on. You American.
Where do we start, Jerrold? Do we start with 2024 or do we go 2023 as far as the Eagles are concerned?
Okay, let's start with today. Let's stay present, 2024, even though it's juxtaposed against 23. And I understand that, but I don't care about the impact of last year. I care about how that impacts them now, and what we're doing from this point forward.
All right. Well, then I guess we can go ahead and combine them all and then say, is Nick Sirianni on the hot seat to a point that it would be anything different than a team that struggles, right? Like, I think if you're an NFL head coach and your team doesn't perform, you bet your ass you're on the hot seat, no matter what. But knowing what we know and how last year went down, and then of course this ESPN article, and then to present day, Where do you stand on Nick Sirianni? Jon Jansen walks in and said, man, that article made him sound clueless in his opinion. Where do you stand on this?
I don't disagree with Jansen again. But here's how I look at it, Sean. The head coach position of the Philadelphia Eagles is a little bit unique in the league. And I don't think the head coach has as much autonomy and control as a lot of other head coaches do. And we saw Doug Peterson, after the 17th season, win the Super Bowl and gone in 2 years. And who do they pick? A guy with no experience, and they tell him who to hire as coordinators. Those coordinators leave after he goes to the Super Bowl, and they force feed him 2 more coordinators, which I believe is the only reason he survived last year, because he was able to say, well, it's not completely my fault. You gave me these coordinators. That's what I believe went on behind closed doors. So now we've got 2 new coordinators. But when you say, hey, you didn't see the sort of ego control freak of Nick Sirianni. Maybe he hasn't showed that publicly, but that's who he is. And this is a guy who, within the confines of that complex, isn't quite the same guy we see. And I absolutely believe he is on the hot seat. I believe he was last year. I believe he came very close to losing his job, and they felt that they owed him another chance. But we know they don't have a long leash. I mean, that was 1 year after a Super Bowl appearance. What Doug last 2 years after a Super Bowl championship?
Yeah.
And ultimately he lost, or he left, because they had sided with him in the Carson Wentz thing. But when it came down, he wanted to keep his coordinators, his assistant coaches, and they didn't want him to. And that's where the gauntlet fell. And so I know it's hard as a head coach to be told who it is that you have to work with and trust. The good part for the Eagles is this year, I think they had such significant upgrades at both coordinator positions that hopefully it really helps the head coach and the overall team. But I do think that last year, the things that finally leaked out, we had heard inklings of during the season of Jalen and the head coach just not getting along well. I think the reaching out to the Wink Martindale is bizarre.
Ooh.
And I mean, to go to your in division opponent who you just played 2 out of that last 4 weeks to ask him for tips as to how to beat you. I don't know. I've never heard anything quite like it. It sounds like
Neither did Wink. Neither did Wink.
It's like, hey, Wink, this is Jalen. How do you beat me? It's bizarre. It's a guy who wants to win, and we gotta like that. But it does say that there's some communication problem going on in NovaCare between the head coach and the quarterback that causes him to go do that.
No, you're right. You're right. All of the above. I've never been a big Sirianni guy. I just, Jerrold, and combining all of this into one, it's just like Jalen, and he's not going anywhere. He just got the contract, understood. But I think what we learned in years past, it really doesn't matter. It's what you've done for me lately. I get it. They don't want to get out of another contract like that. But Jalen Hurts, he's got to deliver. And I'm not sitting here saying that he didn't deliver for the majority of last year. I get it. I believe in the guy. But there are just way too many weapons. Perfect situations, the changes were made all for him in his favor. He's got to deliver this year, but it's the same thing for Nick Sirianni, just totality across the board, or else we're going to have a new head coach next year. I'm not going to say that Jalen Hurts will be removed because I don't think it would be that easy, but I'm not going to sit here and say he would be the starting quarterback the following season, by no means.
Well, they are inextricably linked to each other, and they better root for each other.
That's true. That's true.
because Nick doesn't do well without Jalen doing well, and if Jalen does well, then the head coach does great. And if not, it could be a different head coach and potentially quarterback. So I hear you. It's been, by all reports, I haven't been down there yet. I'll be down there probably a couple times in the coming weeks, but next week they go to New England for a good portion of it. But by all reports, it has been a really good camp. Jalen's been sharp. The offense has been
record-breaking,
sharp.
I heard.
Pardon me?
I said record-breaking, I heard. It's been a record-breaking camp.
Well, we could give notice to that, to say, do you guys buy into any of that stuff?
No, he's an idiot, and he's he's a look at me type of guy. Credit to him, he's getting people to look at him, but yeah, the dude's a goof. Yeah, it's just like whatever.
I mean, it's keeping stats on doing training camp practices is mind-boggling.
It's
to me.
so stupid. It's so stupid.
But as is to some extent what's going to happen down in Baltimore on Friday night. It's exhibition football. But the chance now is to see some of the kids and some of the fights for roster spots at the lower positions, or even how how certain guys are going to fit into the rotation on defense, because that's our biggest unknown for the Eagles right now. And then the stuff with Sirianni and Jalen, hopefully they are on the same wavelength. And it seemed like there was just such a power struggle behind closed doors last year between Brian Johnson and Sirianni, and whose ownership and how he backing really. We don't need any of that, and you don't succeed that way. So it does seem like this is Kellen Moore's offense to run, even if it's got a lot of the same traits as past offenses, but it's Kellen Moore in control of the offense, Vic Fangio in control of the defense, and Sirianni, as your CEO up top, running the thing and responsible for all of it ultimately, even if there's a lot of trust and reliance on other people.
Yes, I mean, you were the agent of one of the more prominent quarterbacks in the NFL, and you've been around Jari Evans too, which was with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Drew Brees, and a great coach with Sean Payton. What is a quarterback-coach relationship supposed to look like? Can it work the way it seems like Sirianni and Hurts are? I just found it odd that usually when it seems like a quarterback goes up to a coach, you've heard this a lot with Doug Peterson and Nick Foles. Andy Reid says this with a lot of his quarterbacks, is how can I get the quarterback to be comfortable? And it seems like Jalen Hurts was going to Nick Sirianni and going, I'm not comfortable in this offense. We need new ideas. We need to try something. And Sirianni just really wasn't listening to it. What are quarterback head coach relationships supposed to be like?
Wow. I mean, what a fabulous question, John. And you made me think back to a lot of things, because in the quarterback you're referring to, it goes back a few decades with Boomer Esiason, but he was a star quarterback in the league, an MVP, and he had things really going with the best offense in the league when he was with Sam Weish, and worked closely with Bruce Cosler as an offense coordinator, who then got him to the Jets, where he could coach him again. And where Boomer had his struggles was when he wasn't on in sync with his head coach and offense coordinator. So great point. I think you have to be, and from my own experience, you have to be. And then with Drew Brees, with Jari Evans, I mean, he and Sean Payton were so on the same wavelength. But to Drew's credit, Drew was so brilliant in the offense and studied so much. I don't know whether or not Jalen is that guy. It's just hard to tell. We don't have enough body of evidence. I know from Drew Brees, he was in that facility constantly and studied like crazy, and they worked, he and Sean, together phenomenally to have a decade plus of the best offense ever. So great point, John. I don't think you can win if there is not tremendous alliance or alignment and communication between your head coach, offense coordinator, and quarterback. Just too significant, and hopefully all that bad stuff is behind them, although remains to be seen.
Yeah, it just feels like it's a really bad thing for your quarterback to go up to you and make problems known, or at least make you know that he has problems with how the offense is going, and just shooting him down so quickly. That didn't sit right with me in that.
Hey, John, it doesn't. And, the timing of the real leak from Jalen about there being trouble between he and Sirianni last year came at the end of the mini camps of the spring workouts. So the timing was like, is this really in the past, or do we still have some scars of it, or ongoing communication problems? And that was strange to me. And the timing, of course, of knowing this is a little strange too. So, and that's why, Sean, your point about, are we in 2023? I want to try to put it behind them, but this is stuff that's rearing its ugly head right now as they enter 2024 season.
Yeah, winning cures all. We know it's the ultimate cliche, so we'll see what happens. And you're putting preseason to the side. I know that the first loss, that's what's going to be discussed, as John brought up earlier. He's like, this isn't a dead issue, unfortunately. So it's the nature of the beast. And perfectly timed article by ESPN. I love Tim McManus, but man, they got the timing down pat. That's for sure.
And I know Jeremy very well, Fowler, and have tremendous regard.
Absolutely.
At some point, I'll find out why did this come out now, but it's really crazy.
Some people like it, the content creators, the radio host, all that. Yeah, sure, that's perfect timing. But for me, it's like, man, it's a new year. Let's get after it. I'm looking forward to this game on Friday, believe it or not. We're talking to Jerrold Colton, all things birds. We're gonna mix it up a little bit. What else you got, Jerrold?
No, and I will say this. I anticipate this offense being really, really good.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
To me, the questions on the offense are just, the loss of Kelsey, You hope they don't miss him too much, both physically as well as the leadership part. And there's a little question who's going to be your right guard right now and stuff like that. So they're relying on some guys who are little unproven at those positions. But otherwise, the addition of Saquon Barkley and Kellen Moore hopefully being so far better than Brian Johnson was really excited to see this offense play. The risk for the Eagles to me is not really the offensive end going into the season.
No, I agree with that. Defensively, I'm just wondering where the sacks are and getting after the quarterback are to come from. People are telling me don't doubt now Nolan Smith. Obviously, he was drafted for that. Bryce Huff is a difference maker with 10 sacks last year. I get it. I just okay, you got to show me. And it's not to say I don't believe. It's just, again, let's get to the season. Let's get after it. But defensively, I'm a little concerned about up front. And of course, Jerrold, since we're on the defensive side of the ball, when you hear stuff like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is getting reps with the number ones this previous weekend, what was your immediate reaction? Where do you stand on that? Is it more so, hey, it's the beginning of the preseason, so yeah, this is the time to check everything out, or do you start thinking about maybe Nakobe Dean isn't exactly the next guy in line here?
Well, you make a great point on Kobe Dean. There have not been good reports about him coming out of there, so that probably has a lot to do with it. But I think that the linebacking position in general in the Eagles is a little bit questionable and up in the air, and they're to be had if Trotter can come out and prove he's worth being out there. And that's not kind of the reports I'm hearing either. so we will see. But that when we talk about the question marks on the Eagles defense, I think the linebacker core is a huge question mark in general.
Yeah, no, I think we're all right there in agreement. And what year have the Eagles gotten the linebacker position right? It's been very few and far between, and some that they've stumbled into. But I remember one guy, I think his name was TJ Edwards. He was pretty good.
He was all right.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah, he was terrific during the Super Bowl season. But I was going to go back to Seth Joyner, Byron Evans, and William Thomas. I mean, it's I'm being sarcastic.
No, I'm with you.
Trotter through here and a whole lot of other guys, and that's being Trotter Senior. But it is a position that we know. We've talked about how the Eagles have somewhat overlooked it or taken a little bit more for granted than some of the other positions. And then last year, I think it really hurt them. And so hopefully they give it a little more attention. And they did a little bit in the draft and guys they brought in and Devin White, but we'll see how it all shapes up come September and see if these guys are really up to snuff. And then you mentioned the Bryce Huff thing, and it's really interesting that they went out and spent a lot of money immediately in free agency on him, and he really is a question mark, isn't he? I mean, I'm not getting a whole lot that this guy is the guy who warranted that kind of salary, but we shall see shortly. I mean, certainly the loss of Reddick, who had 2 good seasons for us. At this point, he's not even playing for the Jets, so maybe they didn't miss out on that much. But I just have so much concern about, as you said, where that pass rush is going to come from. And of course, the tackles, the good young tackles, or hopefully good young tackles, are unproven. Yeah. So we've got all that, and it looks like Reed Blankenship's going to start. It looks like probably Mitchell gets the start, and maybe a few different guys could be that nickel guy, including maybe Avonte Maddox, but just a lot of question marks pretty much everywhere through that defense.
All right, Gerald, get you out of here on this one. Let's talk some Phils. Haven't even mentioned them today. Unbelievable. Wow. Big one last night. Nice victory over the Dodgers. A huge victory as they are now taken 4 out of the 6 games against the LA Dodgers. So if it comes down to a tiebreaker, the Phillies have the advantage there. But game 3 tonight, 10 p.m. Tyler Phillips, everybody's favorite, on the mound, plus 120 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Gavin Stone going for the Dodgers at minus 142. I like the Phils tonight. I like them heading into this series. Man, the Diamondbacks have been really good as of late. I think best team in baseball since the beginning of July. So that's going to be a crazy series. But for tonight, where are you at right now as far as the Phillies? Yeah, putting the game to the side as far as tonight. If you want to give me a take on that, that's fine. But has the panic been warranted? At the end of the day, Gerald, this team since the All-Star break, 4-14, 5-14, something along those lines. Like, they play 162. They have lost 14 games out of 20 games. Like, everybody needs to calm down. That's how I see it. Do you agree or disagree?
I do, because I would say, is the concern warranted? Yes. Panic? Absolutely not. because they still had the buffer for in the standings, and it's baseball and it's a long season. It just is strange, Sean, that this team seems to all go in the tank together. That's what's happened to us in the playoffs a little bit, and that's where the concern becomes. But they stumbled through the second half of July. That's not going to matter as long as they get the ship righted. And they've had 2 good games out of the last 3, and hopefully close out the Dodgers series tonight in the same fashion. And there's a whole lot of stuff to get confident of, or to be confident. Here's how I look at them overall, though. The reason they got out, for the most part, to that tremendous start, and the distance between them and everybody else, to me, was mostly starting pitching. There was a lot of other good stuff too, but it was mostly the starting pitching. And then since that point, Rangers out of the starting rotation, and Wheeler's been terrific, but he had a bad start in there. And then you're searching for that 5th guy, and you have a bullpen game. And it's what they did for so much of those first, say, 100 games, was they would get out to these 4-1, 5-2 leads, and they were great, and they would hold most of them. The bullpen has let them down a little during the stretch, and the hitting hasn't been there. And mostly, look, in baseball, you've got the 1 through 9, and part of what made the Phillies so good and makes them go when they're going well is that they'll get contributions all over the place. But the bottom line is Bryce Harper is still their superstar, and Bryce just went through his worst funk ever, and that was a big part of why they've been struggling to me too. So Bryce will be fine. So in general, Sean, I don't panic. It was a little disappointing to see. You didn't want to have to see, the standings get closer, and hear Tom McCarthy talk about out-of-town scoreboard like it matters now to the Phillies. But by the same token, when the best teams in baseball cruise through the season, that hasn't proven to be a good formula for getting a World Series. So I take it like it's okay that they have to wake up and play meaningful baseball and get their act together, and maybe play it all the way through till the end of September. So you're not just sitting there waiting for the playoffs to start with no momentum. Why teams say, like the Diamondbacks? Because right now the Diamondbacks, they were terrible for a good part of the year, and now they've got the momentum going, and they've got to feel good about themselves. So you want to see them playing their best ball as you head into the playoffs, or as the playoffs start. And how do you get there? Probably the best thing is to not sit there with a 10 to 12 game lead and just coast through it. So I'm okay with everything, but you don't want to see this thing go on too much longer.
Man of the people, Jerrold Colton. I saw him in the in general population for a Hosier concert. He was up in the lawn. All the way
wait, Jerrold in the lawn?
G-pop,
Come on.
all the way up.
The only time I've been in the lawn, I've been at so many concerts this summer. I ran into you at 2 of them. One when we did a little tailgate before the Kenny Chesney, which was fun.
Ooh, that was ugly.
And the Hosier was a last minute, nothing to do with Memorial Day weekend.
How good is he? How good is he?
It was a fabulous show.
Gerald, I said that was the most amazing live experience, live act I've ever seen in my life. Maybe not so much that him.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, when he pulled the flag up, when he sang "Take Me to Church," and he's got the flag, it's the gay flag, it's the transgender flag, it's all the colors, all that, but it's not your standard rainbow flag,
right?
Yeah, so he's holding that up, and that dude speaks, and he stands for something, and he's got a voice. He is just so gifted. Honestly, I thought I got goosebumps talking about it right now, Gerald.
My show this summer was a couple weeks ago. I went up to Hershey, and it was my son's show. He's a production manager now for Live Nation, and it was the Foo Fighters.
Ooh.
And that was
that's Jansen's favorite band.
I know he doesn't think
I'm going to see a
highly
much
as
better
Roll.
band in Hershey in a couple of weeks.
Don't you dare say Creed.
Creed is much better than Foo Fighters.
Are you out of your mind?
Creed is so much better than Foo
Are
Fighters.
you out of your mind? Get out. I can't believe he said it. Gerald,
Creed's in Homedale tonight if you want to go take a ride.
There you go.
John, they're right here.
There you go. If you were a diehard, you would. Hey, Gerald, we will be football season's right around the corner. Of course, we got a lot to get to. Of course, we need you a little bit more weekly on here, getting back in the groove of things, and we will do that with football season here. Let's go, Birds. All right, brand new season, brand new year. Enough of 2023. Let's look forward. I look forward to covering it all with you throughout the course of the season. Always a pleasure, sir.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. So great to talk to you guys.
My man, there he is, Jerrold Colton, once again on the Gambler.
That's my favorite
Hotline.
place to watch a concert is like on a lawn.
No, I'm not a lawn guy.
I am a lawn guy. I don't know why.
No, definitely.
I like the lawn.
Because I'll tell you what, that experience would not have been the same if I was in the lawn. All due respect to Jerrold. We had great seats because of my wife. She's a big time fan. So it hit because we were 11 rows back.
Oh, wow. You were whoa.
Yeah, that's not going to be the same if I'm out there in the lawn. It was incredible. All right. Speaking of incredible, we got a lot of things coming your way. 5 o'clock hours coming up next, summer ball, and Swing It and Ding It, where they have Brad Faxon on at 6 p.m. All right. So don't touch that dial. Keep it locked to the Gambler for great programming coming up. Also, on our socials, trivia question for your opportunity to win 2 pairs or a pair of Fanatics Fest tickets. That's going down in NYC. Check out the event and all the information at fanaticsfest.com. 5 o'clock hour, we're also giving away your chance to win a trip to the iHeartRadio Music Festival Awards. That's a mouthful. That's going down in Vegas. A lot to do. So make sure you're following us on socials. Once again, at Fox PHL Gambler. More after this.
Win your way to our 2024 iHeartRadio Music Festival, presented by Capital One. September 20th